I request everyone to maintain silence. I request the volunteers to maintain the students. Continuing our journey through literature and cultural narratives, let us proceed with Dr. R. Srilata on Indian knowledge systems and translation.
Good afternoon, all of you. Reverend Sister Donna Grace, respected Principal, Head of the Department, Dr. Jennifer, members of the department and the college, my dear student friends. It's a great pleasure to stand before you and to deliver a session on Indian knowledge systems and translation. Now, there's a reason why I want to tweak this. Before that, I have actually personally gone down my memory lane, and I'm still recollecting those days, 25 years ago, when Sister Donna and I shared the same campus. And 25 years after, we are sharing another campus with me as a speaker and she as a secretary. It is actually taking me back in time. Coming out of that memory, I want to talk to you a bit about, I know what it is to be a captive audience. Please bear with me. I'm sure this will be an informative session for you. To begin with, translation and Indian knowledge system is my topic for the day. Next slide. Now, to introduce Indian knowledge system, all of you know that it is a diverse body of knowledge. Generally, when we talk about ancient knowledge systems, we talk about 4 Vedas, 18 knowledge domains, 64 art forms. It's not just that. There is more to it. There are oral traditions, there are folk narratives, there are all these scriptures that are unavailable to us. Tolkappiyam itself, how much of it is actually translated? How much do we know authorship for? You have Ettu Thogai, Pattu Paattu, Padinenkil Kanakku. So it actually is a whole compendium which cannot be enlisted in a half-an-hour session. But I'm not here to talk to you about Indian knowledge system alone, because it is far ahead it's far behind time. You know, it was actually something that is put together thousands of years ago, and access to it is very limited because of many complexities. You know, we belong to a very oral tradition, and you know how knowledge was transmitted. It was actually transmitted through hearsay. Have you played Chinese whispers? Yes? So you know what happens when you play Chinese whispers. You say something, by the time it reaches to the last person, it comes out as something else. And that is what we have with orality also. Now there is a beauty to orality. One, the text evolves, the text undergoes changes, the text has to be in memory. So there are so many things, that is a complexity I'm talking to you about now. With this complexity, how are we going to look at knowledge system? Now, one of my interests for looking at Indian knowledge system is because it is actually sustainable and holistic. Sir, in the first plenary session, Dr. Charles Godwin was talking about blue humanities, which is one branch of the geography that we associate, the environment that we associate with people's lives, narratives, and our everyday occupation. Like that, we have many, many worlds. Ocean is a world, land is a world, air is a world, space is another world. So the elements are actually communicating to us. It is we, for a long time, in humanistic tradition, who have looked at this world from an anthropocentric approach. We have looked at, for almost 20 centuries, we have looked at this world from how is this place, nature, this planet going to benefit us, human beings. We've been very selfish among the species. You know, we are gifted with the ability to think. And how have we thought? We have thought it about it. All the inventions, discoveries has been to actually improve human life. In that struggle to improve human life, we have forgotten about other lives. And that is where today we are talking about one of the SDG goals itself is to preserve nature. And nature is actually preserved in Indian knowledge system as a holistic approach. We do not speak about the human body in isolation. Look at Ayurveda as a medicine. We look at it as a holistic approach where it is actually, if you have a stomach pain and go to a doctor, in a hospital, you will be referred to a gastroenterologist. Now, by the time you get an appointment with a gastroenterologist, technology is so very modified today that diagnosis can be done not with symptoms, but with a scan. The moment you hear an MRI scan, yes, you get petrified. It becomes a life and death situation immediately. You know, there are so many diseases to which you will attribute your headache or your stomach pain to. Indigestion, food poisoning, any problem will create a headache. But from neurology to nephrology to what not, gastroenterology, you will be referred one by one, and the hospitals make you feel that you're going to die the next moment. This is the kind of development where we have come to. And this is precisely why today the world is also thinking along with us in terms of, look at the California, fires in California, yes, and look at what is happening with the water resources in the cities in South India. You know, we have had ghost towns. Have you heard of ghost towns? Cape Town, a city in South Africa, has become a ghost town. People have all vacated because there is no water. Very soon it will come to us also. It may not be, probably not in my lifetime I can say, but because I'm already 50. You who have to live longer might have to actually, touch wood, I'm not telling this as a curse, but I'm telling it as a warning, where if we don't care for nature, nature is not going to care for us. It's like what Mahatma Gandhi said, this planet has everything that a human being needs, for a man's needs, not for a man's greed. And that is precisely where I would like to pitch my talk on Indian knowledge system. Why is it important to actually look at the holistic approach to sustainability? Because resources are depleting, some are irreversible resources. And that is where we don't know, or the world does not know, what is this rich heritage of knowledge that we have, which needs to be translated. Now, the complexities are, as I told you, it is actually, first one is linguistic. All these knowledge is not available to us easily in our everyday understanding. It is actually either in very ancient languages. Say for example, I'm not talking about Sanskrit alone here. Look at Tamil, Tolkappiyam. How many of you can read old Tamil, which is actually one of your Purananuru or Agananuru poems, and understand it? Even a Kural, why does a Kural need an explanation? Because it is all the virtues in Thirukural is actually applicable to life. But how many of us apply it is the question. Now this is where I would like to pitch my session today. The cultural context is also very important. We are not living in close to nature, we are cut off from nature. Therefore, certain passages that are used in these songs, in these poetry, in these narratives, we don't know. We who speak the language don't know. Then how are people who don't know our culture going to understand it? So accessibility is actually not easy. Then the abstraction. You know, we are all so proud of India's rich cultural heritage and all that, because it is actually, it is something that is rich in spirituality. And one thing that we sell as soft power is our yoga. There is much more than all this. In one of the ways of talking that India is a spiritual country, we are also indirectly talking about India as a mystical country. Mysticism is something that is very fashionable. Now, we are equally materialistic like any other Western country. Do you understand? Which other community has a goddess for wealth, where gold coins are overflowing from the hands? Which other community? We are equally materialistic. Do you understand what I'm talking? So, it's quite abstract. And another thing is non-violent India. That makes us very soft. You know, when we talk about, of course, non-violence was required at one time, because the mighty British Empire could not be fought by a very crude army which was not consolidated as a nation. The subcontinent was not prepared for a empire like the British Empire to fight for independence. So Gandhiji felt it is morality and dharmic tradition that can take us through freedom struggle. He was a man of his times, and therefore it became a successful story of independence through non-violence. But do we have to still think about India as a non-violent nation? All I need to tell you is take up the newspapers, listen to the news, you will know how non-violent India is today. Do you understand? It is a big question of how non-violent are we. But what is the perception that outsiders have of us? This is what Amartya Sen is talking about. Indian traditions and Western imagination, he says. West imagines us as a very meek power, which is incapable of any kind of might, you know. And that is precisely where I would like to bring my next argument, that non-violence was a requirement for a given point of time in a context in the history of India. But we may not have invaded any nations as a country, but we were invaded by many cultures. And that invasion has only made us accept, tolerate, and to live, coexist with many cultures. And we have become a multicultural country today. So these are some of the complexities I would like to talk about. Next slide. Now, why is translation the way ahead? Why do all of us not speak in the same language? Why should, when I say translation, I may be an English teacher, but I'm not talking about translating into English. You can translate from English also to your regional languages, and translation of Indian text is not easy. I'm doing it now, and I can tell you it is a very daunting task, because to translate something which is so deep in philosophy, so insightful in understanding, we constantly talk about vichara dharas. We don't talk about one thing in particular. This is what I told you. I'm going back to Ayurveda, where I'm talking about a holistic approach. I was telling you that, look at Western medicine, allopathy, for example. They have specializations in all fields. Yes, you have ophthalmology, you have dentists, you have today diabeticians, you have within carcinoma specialists, so ophthalmologists, oncologists. There are many people within practicing within. These are all specialized areas who treat individually the organs. But human body is an organ system, comprising of an organ system where every organ system is interrelated. It is like a college where you have a central administration and you have departments that contribute to a central administration. So like that, when I talk about the context in which we are looking at Indian literature or Indian knowledge system itself, we should know the history and the context from which it evolved. Otherwise, it is difficult for us to understand from where this reading comes. If I have to talk to you about Bharatiyar's Achamillai, Achamillai, Acham Enbadillaye, then you should know that Bharatiyar wrote during a time when India was actually fighting for independence, and he was a national poet at that time, writing in Tamil. So why is he talking about fearlessness? Why is he talking about being courageous? Because he wants Indian natives to be courageous to the mighty empire. Do you understand? Not that we are always fearless. Do you understand? So, the target language in which we are translating may not have the context which we are reading in source language. Say, for example, words. Language exists in a culture. For a culture to actually have a certain word, some custom or ritual will be the background. Okay? Now, all of us know baptism is initiation into a religion. Okay? Is that same as Upanayana? Is it same as Upanayana? No. For Upanayana, we cannot give an explanation in English as baptizing, because it's loosely translated by the people who do that ritual as thread ceremony. Now, marriage is also a thread ceremony in South India. Yes? So, which is the thread ceremony that we are referring to? Translation becomes very complex in these situations where we don't have similar cultures and customs that are followed. So, language predominantly exists in a culture. And this cultural significance is what is important. You type one proverb in Tamil and ask Google to translate it, you will find it so funny. Yes, you just type Kallanalum Kanavan Pullanalum Purushan and ask Google to translate. you will know what it says. It will be very funny because cultural markers are not there. If cultural markers are not there, then translation becomes a very, very challenging task. That is where we have to actually realize when we read Indian literatures in translation, we will lose something, but something is gained in that reading. Yes? What we lose is, of course, the loss that we have to endure to know something. It is like watching a Hollywood movie in Tamil. Do you understand? The visuals are there, but the dialogues and the subtitles are not anywhere closer. Do you understand? It is like that. Now, meaning and rhythm, especially in poetry, if the rhythm is lost, then the beauty of the poetry is lost. Yes? So the loss should be minimized. We can minimize the loss by giving footnotes, by transliterating. Transliterating means maintaining the same word in the spelling of whichever target language you are writing in. Say, for example, if you're translating from Tamil to English, when I say Koolu, you have to write it as Koolu only. I'll tell you why. With the Koolu comes a simplicity of diet. Not everybody who can afford, today, you know, diet is actually making all of them switch to millets. But there were times when millets were only the food of people below the poverty line, the marginalized people. Rice was once in a while a dream. Yes? So, I don't know how many of you have read Bhama in Sangati. Bhama is an Indian Dalit writer. Very consciously, her translator has not translated certain words because the coarseness, when it is time, you please tell me, because I will go on and on. I am a literature teacher. So, when it's time, please give me a reminder. So, Bhama in Sangati has actually maintained certain words because if it is translated, it gets sophisticated and refined. For the Dalits, their language is also their identity. You know, if you have seen Vada Chennai and all movies like that, you know the language they speak. Yes, the swear words they use in Tamil, the songs that they sing, pare as an instrument itself. Yes, musical instrument itself. Look how we are actually considering these without translating but maintaining the aesthetics of it. So then Koolu becomes a very coarse diet which a certain community of people eat. Yes? If it is translated in English, you will have to translate it as porridge, which sounds very sophisticated probably. Do you understand? Yes? And what we can do here is, to minimize the loss, please change the slide. You can actually look at next one. So these are the complexities I'm talking to you about. The last line there, you can provide footnotes and explanations later while translating. This is for all of you who is actually planning. If you know two languages where you feel that one language something is absent and you want to express it in another language, borrow the story or the narrative or something in another language, you can do it. Say, for example, Wikipedia is a free source for all of us. You can contribute to that Wikipedia source. Whatever you know of a practice in Tamil, translate some Kumipata itself from Tamil to English and upload it in Wikipedia. Wikipedia will register it as an information, source of information. So next time anybody in the world hears Kumipata, they will know what it is. You know, today people Google search for whatever they don't know. So if Google is insufficient with information, we are actually providing that information. I know we are not actually complete. None of you can say, I am rendering this exactly the way it is in Tamil to English. You can't say that. Yes, but still you can do some service by making others know what this culture is and what this ritual is. So that's the reason why we have to translate. And the linguistic complexity is the foremost among all. And then we have the cultural context that I was talking to you about now. Concepts are also deep and very layered. Layered when I say, I'm talking about, say for example, Ramayana for example. Kambar must have presented Ramayana in a certain way. Yes? Valmiki's Ramayana is different. Tulasidas in Hindi has written differently. I'm coming from Karnataka, so Pampa must have written it differently. Each one is telling their story according to the suitability of their language and their culture where Ramayana changes. We have a Thai Ramayana. We have a Nepali Ramayana. Yes? And these are all things that actually contributes. The more you retell something, the more those epics live. To this day, you know, you look at, broadly you look at Indian cinema for example. Two large threads of story that underlie Indian cinema is, one is the lover or the husband safeguarding and protecting his wife or his family, which is the underlying thread of Ramayana, getting back the abducted wife. Yes? Or the family where one son has usurped all the property, other sons are actually struggling because they have not got their rightful share, which is the underlying theme of Mahabharata. Now this is presented in many ways. This is retold in many ways. This may not be told in the same way with same character names and all that. But you know, every day in every episode a Ramayana and a Mahabharata is actually enacted, reenacted, relived. Chitra Divakaruni Banerjee is doing that. There are many, many writers who are doing that today. You have innumerable retellings of the epics, and epics are the foundational cultural texts that we from where our behavior, our thoughts, education is on one side, upbringing and civilizational inheritance is on another side. So whatever you talk, you are actually conditioned to do certain things. You don't know what is conditioning you, but over your evolution of life, you would have imbibed all this unconsciously. You don't know from where, but you would have imbibed it. What you watch, what you read, to who you speak, who you grow up with, all these people influence you in one way or the other. So how do we account for all this? How do we create a narrative out of this? And that is precisely what we have to look at in rendering in another language. That is where translation plays a key role, where we have so much to say. You just try and maintain a diary where when you feel, write in any language. When you feel that, or nowadays diary writing is out of fashion, make notes in your mobile. For you, your Instagram reels or your 30-second story may not stay. Yes, but your notes in your phone, where sometime later you can go back and recollect of what contributed to you as a person in building your personality. So that is very significant. Probably some of you might become great personalities in life where you need to write a biography or an autobiography. These notes will help you. Yes? So kindly start recording your everyday experiences or your unforgettable memories. Just record it. It's very, very important to record your unforgettable memories. Because people have recorded, only we have Indian knowledge systems today. Yes? And that is what I would like to request all of you. The next is how I'm going to relate IKs and translation. Next. This is over. All this I've spoken, yeah. No, you're going back. Go forward. Yeah. So IKS, translation and higher education. This is where I'm pitching my argument, because all of you are in the tertiary level of learning now. You are all doing your graduation courses or your post-graduation courses, mostly scholars in higher education now. Where do we pitch in this? We know very well that it's a holistic system of education, of knowledge, and translation will help us actually create an indigenous syllabi. When I say indigenous syllabi, what I mean is, you can actually, today you may be reading Wordsworth or Shelley or Coleridge in classes, but relatability is actually only when you can. Keats cannot be related unless it appeals to your senses. Yes? Wordsworth, for example. Daffodils, I'm sure most of you must have heard of this poem, right? Thousands saw I fluttering in the breeze. How can you actually imagine a yellow flower which is golden in color, like actually a gold carpet being stretched out, if you have not seen that flower at all? How can you imagine that? How can you imagine a daffodils fluttering and dancing in the breeze? Such an yellow flower that we have in India is sunflower. It can't dance in the breeze. Do you understand? So this is the non-relatability part that I'm talking about. So if we translate and if we have available resources of gender, culture, aesthetics in our own experiences, which is actually rendered to us in English, then we have an indigenous syllabi. It is our own. We can relate to it. So classrooms today need to be decolonized. When I say decolonized, I'm an English teacher. You will tell me decolonize your language first. But today we've come far away with English that English has become one of the Indian languages. I'll tell you why. English in India is much older than English in Oxford or Cambridge. Because when Indian universities had English as a medium of education, Oxford and Cambridge were still reading in Greek and Latin. So we have our higher education in English even before the English themselves could have it. So that is our history towards learning, higher education. Now, we've come a long way. 12% of the Indians speak English. I'm audible to all of you? 12% of the Indians. This is echoing, sir. I can't hear what I'm talking. So, online people are not able to hear me? They're not able to hear me. Now? Okay, the need is to decolonize the literature classroom and forge a new academic rigor. When you can relate what you're studying, when you can experience what is going on, you can actually, Anna Akhmatova in Russian literature is talking about waiting outside a Stalin prison during the Stalinist regime in Russia. She did not write anything. She told her poetry to people who were standing along with her in the queue. And for 17 months she stood outside the queue waiting for her information about her son. Now this information could not be actually passed on to next generations because she did not write Requiem for a long time. She wrote it probably after 20 years. And this was told to people in different places. Memories recollected it and wrote it down. We wouldn't have had the atrocities of Stalinist Russia if Anna Akhmatova had not recorded it in her Requiem. Yes? Like that, we also have a lot to record. Record it in Tamil. Record it in the language that you're comfortable. One thing with multilingual India is that we have a lot of multilingual people. I'm sure most of you here know at least 3 languages. Yes? Most of you here know, depending on which part of the border you come from. Because all states in India are actually borders of another state. where you either know Telugu Tamil, or you know Malayalam Tamil, or you know Kannada Tamil. Yes, something is actually there as a backup. So, by decolonizing the classrooms, what are we doing? We are actually negotiating local, regional, and global literary spheres. When I say global literary spheres, I told you, there are many, many writers of the world who are available to us in our local languages. Yes, many literatures of the world is available thanks to translation. Rabindranath Tagore would not have won his Nobel Prize had it not been for his translation of Gitanjali. Yes, one literary Nobel Prize that we have. Although there are a lot of politics associated to that Nobel Prize, still we do have a Nobel. And if his Gitanjali is actually recognized by this world because it is written in English, his Bengali version of Gitanjali is even more in-depth and rich in its rendering, yes, in its tribute to the God. So, globalization may have enhanced people to move across borders, but this has also created cultural barriers, yes, and these cultural barriers can only be overcome through translation. Why are people behaving certain way? What are they talking? Look, every year you please look into the inclusion in Oxford Dictionary. Oxford Dictionary includes many, many words of Indian origin. Why? Why should they include it? Because global population is using that word. Yes? Like how after your social media, cringe is a word that has found its vocabulary in Tamil. Whether you know English or not, you know the word cringe. Yes? Because thanks to the social media. Like that, social media helps in popularizing certain words. And this is precisely why translation is essential. Now, the digital divide then is actually huge. Now, Indian knowledge system is actually indispensable. Indispensable, we cannot do away with it. So, what is actually, next slide, digital divide, next slide. We have close to 14 major writing systems, 5 language families evolved from India, and 400 spoken languages are from India and different dialects. When I say dialects, you know, Tamil in Nellai is different from Tamil in Chennai, is different from Tamil in Coimbatore, is different from Tamil in different parts of. These are the dialectical variations that we have. Do you understand? Yes? So, 6 Indian languages are part of top 20 global languages. Thanks to the migrants. Many migrants have gone all over the world. After China, India has the largest number of migrant population is of Indian origin. But all these languages are not on the top of digital content list. Okay, fine. So, we have to now look at then how to make it into a global language. Make it available online. I told you one idea where you can do it is through Wikipedia. Anybody can actually be part of this source. Now, I will just finish this with history of translation here. We know only of 2 names of Indian knowledge system. Of course, one is Panini, another is Kautilya. Yes, these are the names that are familiar to us. But, when Warren Hastings felt that this is actually a land that has to be governed by their own laws, then Dharma Shastras were translated. Bible translations helped largely in making dictionaries because people actually funded money, missionaries funded money to make dictionaries because they wanted to make the Bible available in local languages. Do you understand? And this, in fact, led to the very famous translations of the Puranas and the Itihasas. In conclusion, I would like to say IKS is not an attempt, next slide, is not an attempt to homogenize. You know what homogeneity means? To make the whole country have one cultural framework. That is not the objective. IKS is actually to celebrate diversity. Only when we get into Indian knowledge system, we will know that it is a diverse land. And as I told you, plurality of cultures, because we don't believe in one truth. The existence of so many religions in India itself is actually a witness to understand that we don't believe in one truth. Yes, and therefore we should be able to expand the horizon of IKS beyond Vedic studies and use these translations to explore the frontiers of indigenous knowledge. Thank you.
Every meaningful journey deserves a moment of reflection and gratitude, for it is in appreciation that efforts find their true recognition. As we stand at the culmination of this event, I now invite Ms. P. Vijayalakshmi, Assistant Professor of English Department, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. Cicero. Respected dignitaries, esteemed guests, dear staff, and beloved students, it's my privilege to extend the vote of thanks on behalf of our English department at this national conference. First and foremost, I express my heartfelt gratitude to our secretary, Reverend Sister Dr. Donna Grace Jayasili, for her unwavering support and encouragement, which have been instrumental in making this conference a reality. Her vision continues to inspire us. Next, I mention a special note of gratitude and appreciation to our principal, Dr. Caroline Rose, for her constant guidance and motivation. Her commitment to academic excellence has been a driving force behind all our endeavors. We are deeply grateful to our esteemed plenary speakers, Dr. K. Charles Godwin and Dr. Srilata, for their enlightening and thought-provoking sessions. Their expertise has enriched our discussions and provided valuable insights. Thank you, dignitaries. A heartfelt appreciation to our generous sponsors, Merciless Ice Cream, Powai Publishers, ESS Computers, and Bima Jewelers for their invaluable support. Their contribution has been instrumental in making this conference a success. I also extend my gratitude to the organizing committee, faculty members, and student volunteers for their dedication and hard working in ensuring the smooth execution of this event. Finally, a big thank you to all our participants and delegates for your enthusiastic engagement. Your presence and active discussions have made this conference truly meaningful. Let me conclude with the words of John F. Kennedy. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. With this, I extend my heartfelt thanks once again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Scholarship thrives in exchange. Now we move to the heart of this conference, the paper presentation session, where academicians and researchers will illuminate new perspectives. I would like to invite Ms. Harshita from Bishop Cotton Women's Christian Law College to present a paper.
Happy morning. I'm Arshita, a proud alumni, and is currently pursuing law at Bishop Cotton's Bangalore. So, first of all, I thank everyone for letting me on to the stage this day. So, let me start with my presentation. Vedas as the source of all knowledge. Next slide, please. So today's agenda would be introduction to the Vedas, the concept of Dharma, Shruti as a source of knowledge, and Smriti as a source of knowledge, final tips and takeaways. One second. So first, the concept of Dharma. Next slide, please. So the concept of Dharma revolves around the 4 requirements of life, which is Dharma, a pure life, Artha, which is money, and Kama, which is your desires, and Moksha, which is your liberation. Anyone who earns money through the dharmic way, which we call a pure life. And next, one who fulfills his desires only through that money which is earned through a dharmic way, he attains liberation. Thank you. So, one aspect of sex. Okay, ma'am. It's okay, sir. Okay, ma'am. Irrespective of gender, age, and sex, anyone can attain liberation, and that is the concept of Dharma. And again, I have Shruti as a source of knowledge and Smriti as a source of knowledge. Shruti means to hear, which is revealed to you by the God. For example, Quran, which is revealed to Muhammad just through the words of God, which is later revealed to the people. Next, we have Smriti, which means to remember. For example, the rishis and sages who have passed this from generation and generation, and now we are living in it. I'll just give you a small examples of what is Shruti and Smriti. Like in Shrutis, we have 4 Vedas, Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. We have subsections which we'll be dealing with later. And in Smritis, we have 18 Puranas, and we also have Dharma Shastra, Dharma Sutra. We also have Tantras, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we have Itihasas, and we also have writings of common people. So, classification of Dharma. Dharma can be divided into 2. One is Purna Dharma, and the second one is your Ashrama Dharma. Purna Dharma is the circular path towards liberation. Till the person attains liberation, he'll be revolving around the cycles of birth and death. That is what we call Purna Dharma. So how this Purna Dharma has originated, that is what I have written in as Brahmana Kshatriyas. So Brahmanas are the people who arose from the mouth of Lord Brahma. Kshatriyas are the people who arose from the arms of Lord Brahma. Vaishyas are the people who arose from the thighs of Lord Brahma, and Sudras are the people who arose from the feet of Lord Brahma. Next we have Ashrama Dharma, which we generally call it as Varnashram Dharma. So it also has 4 subcategories. Brahmacharya, which is focused on education. Grahastya, which is focused on family life. Vanprastya, which focuses on the simplicities of life. And Sannyasa, which is focused on the concept of renunciation. Next slide, please. Important laws of Dharma. Nothing is free in this universe. The universe treats everyone equally. Every action of yours will produce results, and your every desire is granted to be fulfilled by the universe. And at last, when and how your desire will be fulfilled is based on your karma. That is what we call action and result. Shruti as a source of knowledge. I have Rig Veda, which consists of 2068 shlokas and 10 mandalas, we call it. That is how the Rig Veda has been subdivided. The Rig Veda is the oldest form of Veda, and which later gave references to all other Vedas. Next, I have Sama Veda. Sama Veda mainly focuses on 2 gods. Black Yajurveda, which we call it, which is in reference to Lord Krishna, and white Yajurveda, which is focused on Lord Shukla. Both of these gods reflect their nature, and that is how the Samaveda came into existence. Samaveda also focuses on music as a production of music. Okay. With this, I would conclude my speech. First of all, I thank all the sisters and teachers who have made me into what I am today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harshita. I would like to invite Ms. Vanshika, student of 2nd BA English from Government Arts and Science College, Papiredipatti. Let us now stand in unity as we honor our nation with the national anthem. I request everyone to stand. Thank you, everyone. Let us now take a break, replenish our energies, and prepare for the thought-provoking session ahead. The participants can leave after filling the feedback form and receiving the certificates at the registration desk. The presenters are asked to be here sharp at 1:40 p.m. The participants can leave after filling the feedback form and receiving the certificates at the registration desk. The presenters are asked to be here sharp at 1:40 p.m. Thank you.